Today, we're unpacking Real Self-Care, a transformative program for redefining wellness by Dr. Pooja Lakshmin. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by the endless self-care trends, fancy candles, spa days, or bubble baths, this book will challenge your perspective. It's about redefining what self-care really means and creating sustainable change in your life. Let's dive in. The problem with Insta-perfect self-care. Dr. Pooja Lakshmin begins by debunking the myths of modern self-care. Social media has sold us a polished, superficial version of self-care, filled with aesthetic routines and expensive products. But as Dr. Lakshmin explains, these trends often fail to address the root causes of burnout, stress, and dissatisfaction. She describes a common scenario: you're exhausted, so you treat yourself to a spa day or splurge on a new gadget. It feels good in the moment, but the stress and chaos return as soon as the glow wears off. Real self-care, according to Lakshmin, is not about escaping life's problems but learning how to navigate them in a way that aligns with your values. The 4 principles of real self-care. Dr. Lakshmin outlines a framework of 4 transformative principles for redefining self-care. Let's explore them with examples to help you apply them to your life. 1. Setting boundaries. The first principle is learning to set boundaries, arguably one of the hardest but most important forms of self-care. True boundaries are not about cutting people off or isolating yourself but about defining what's acceptable for your emotional and mental well-being. For instance, imagine you're constantly saying yes to extra work at your job, even when you're stretched thin. Real self-care means having the courage to say, "I'm at capacity right now, and I can't take on more." It's about protecting your energy so you can show up fully for the things that truly matter. Dr. Lakshmin shares stories of patients who transformed their lives by learning to say no, not out of selfishness, but out of self-preservation. 2. Practicing self-compassion. Self-compassion is another core principle. Dr. Lakshmin argues that we're often our harshest critics, holding ourselves to impossible standards while forgiving others for similar mistakes. Real self-care starts with treating yourself as kindly as you'd treat a friend. For example, if you miss a workout or fall behind on a goal, instead of beating yourself up, try saying, "I'm doing the best I can, and it's okay to take a break." This mindset shift can prevent burnout and help you bounce back faster. Lakshmin uses research to back this up, showing that self-compassion isn't indulgent, it's a proven way to build resilience. 3. Aligning with your values. One of the most powerful ideas in the book is that real self-care is deeply tied to your values. It's not about following someone else's checklist, it's about creating a life that reflects what's truly important to you. For example, if family is your top priority, real self-care might mean cutting back on work hours to spend more time at home, even if it means earning less money. If creativity fuels you, it might mean carving out time for hobbies, even when life feels hectic. Dr. Lakshmin encourages readers to ask themselves tough questions: what do I value most? Where am I compromising those values, and how can I course-correct? 4. Taking responsibility for your choices. Finally, real self-care involves owning your decisions. It's easy to blame external circumstances for our unhappiness, but Lakshmin challenges us to recognize where we have control and take action. For example, if you're stuck in a toxic work environment, real self-care might mean planning an exit strategy, researching new opportunities, updating your resume, and seeking support from mentors. It's not an easy process, but taking responsibility for your choices is empowering and life-changing. Lakshmin is clear: real self-care isn't quick or glamorous. It's about making difficult but necessary changes that lead to long-term well-being. The distinction between real and fake self-care. Throughout the book, Dr. Lakshmin emphasizes the difference between performative self-care and real self-care. Performative self-care is external, it's what looks good on Instagram but doesn't address your deeper needs. Real self-care is internal, it's about doing the hard work to heal, grow, and build a life that feels authentic to you. For example, buying a fancy planner might feel like self-care, but if you're not addressing the underlying reasons for your procrastination or stress, it's just a band-aid. Real self-care might involve therapy, setting boundaries with overbearing colleagues, or having an honest conversation with your partner about shared responsibilities. Cultural and systemic challenges. Dr. Lakshmin also acknowledges that self-care doesn't exist in a vacuum. Many of the challenges we face, like workplace burnout, societal pressures, or systemic inequality, are beyond individual control. She stresses that real self-care isn't about blaming yourself for struggling, it's about recognizing what's within your control and advocating for larger changes when needed. For instance, if your workplace has a toxic culture, real self-care might mean joining others in advocating for better policies or finding a company that aligns with your values. In a world obsessed with quick fixes, real self-care reminds us that the path to true well-being is a journey, not a destination. It's not about perfect routines or trendy solutions, it's about doing the inner work to create a life that reflects your values, protects your mental health, and fosters authentic relationships.